Hey, welcome back to Books and Coffee. Today, we are going to have a understanding or a lecture on structuralism and deconstruction, two of the most influential movements in modern literary theory, and the frequently asked portion when it comes to UGC NET examination. So in this video, we will begin from the roots of structuralism, move through structural linguistics, anthropology and literary theory, and finally transition into deconstruction. So by the end, you will understand not just the theory, but how it operates in everyday life. So structuralism is a method of understanding the world not through individual objects, but through the systems and structures that organize them. So at its core, structuralism argues that the world is divided into two levels. The visible or the observable one, that is what we see actually, and the invisible and underlying structures, what gives meaning. So the visible and the invisible. For example, when you look at traffic lights, you can see red, yellow and green, but the meaning comes from an underlying system of rules. So structuralism is not interested in things, but in the relationships between things. So structuralism works through key ideas such as meaning is not natural, meaning is constructed through systems, and everything exists in relation to something else. You can think of language. The word cat only makes sense because it is not dog, rat or bat. So meaning comes from difference, not essence. Structuralism begins with linguistics, especially the work of Ferdinand de Saussure. His ideas comes from Course in General Linguistics. It is published posthumously in 1916 based on lectures at the University of Geneva. Saussure explains language as a structured system. A sign equals signifier plus signified. Signifier means sound or image. It can be any sound or image. And the signified means concept. For example, the word tree. Here, the sound tree is the signifier. And the signified is the mental image of a tree. If I say a tree, so my word tree is signifier. And the image that you have in your mind, it can be jackfruit tree or a mango tree or a neem tree, that mental image, that concept becomes the signified. So sign equals signifier plus signified. Imagine ordering a tea. You say tea and the waiter understands it. Why? Not because tea naturally means tea, but because society agreed on that meaning. So language is like a shared code system. And we have synchronic and diachronic meaning. For example, synchronic means language at one moment, like how we speak today. And diachronic means language over time, like how it evolved. So structuralism focuses on synchronic study, that is how we speak today. And again, we have binary oppositions. Structuralism sees meaning in opposites. For example, hot was cold, good was evil, male was female. So we understand one only because of the other. So that is binary oppositions. And we have structural anthropology, which is associated with Claude Lévi-Strauss. So Lévi-Strauss applied structuralism to culture. So his important works are The Elementary Structures of Kinship, Structural Anthropology, and Mythology Cues. So the idea is human cultures are built on hidden structures, especially myths, kinship systems, and rituals. For example, different cultures have different myths, but they often share similar structures like hero vs villain. If you look at Indian mythology, we can see a contrast between hero vs villain. If you look at Japanese mythology, we can see similar hero and villain concepts. So different cultures have different myths, but they often share similar structures. When we look at structuralism in literature, we can see structuralists study literature as a system of patterns. So the key thinkers are A.G. Grimas, Todorov, and Gerard Genette. So when we look at the narrative structure, we can understand their beloved stories follow patterns. Example structures are equilibrium, disruption, and resolution. So literature is not random imagination. It follows deep structural formulas, and that concept is narrative structure. And when we look at semiotics, semiotic means the study of signs. So when we look at semiotics, we can understand the formula is sign equals to signifier plus signified. Like everything becomes a sign. It can be clothes, food, or advertisements. For example, a white dress can signify purity or tradition. So that is the concept of the study of signs. And we have Roland Barthes here. Barthes expands structuralism into literature and culture. His important works are Writing Degree 0, Methodologies, and The Death of the Author. So the key ideas, the birth of the reader must be at the cost of the death of the author. So here, the author's intention does not control meaning, but the reader creates meaning. The moment when a reader starts reading a book, here, the death of the author happens. Only if the death of the author happens, then only the birth of the reader comes into the picture. So this is the concept behind the death of the author. So reader creates meaning, not the author. Also, Barthes says, writing as a space. That means writing destroys fixed identity. It becomes a neutral space. And here, meaning is unstable. When we look at structuralism with Aristotle, we can understand structuralism rejects Aristotle's idea that literature imitates reality, that is mimesis. Instead, literature is a system of signs, not a mirror of reality. Now we have deconstruction, Jacques Derrida. So now things are actually getting messier. So important works of Derrida, we have of grammatology, writing and difference, and speech and phenomena. So the core idea in which deconstruction says that structures are unstable and meaning is never fixed. So we have key terms such as difference. Difference means meaning is always different or deferred. Now you never reach final meaning. That is the concept behind difference by Derrida. Also, logocentrism, it is a Western thought believes in a center of truth, and Derrida rejects this, and he mentions there is no fixed center. So in Western thought, we have a belief of center of truth, and Derrida entirely rejects this, and he puts forward there is no fixed center. So logocentrism is also a concept we can see in deconstruction. Also we have bricolage, which means meaning is constructed using whatever is available, like making sense of a meme using your own life experiences. And think about the word home. A home for one person, it can be comfort, and for other person, it can be associated with stress. So meaning is always unstable. It's never stable. And we have Structure, Sign and Play lecture. In this 1966 lecture, Derrida argues structures do not have a fixed center and meaning is always in play. And when we look at René Descartes' this quote, quote unquote, I think, therefore I am, deconstruction challenges this quote. Because even thinking is shaped by language, so identity is also not stable according to deconstruction. And we have this concept of transcendental signified, that means structuralism believed in a final meaning. And Derrida says there is no ultimate meaning, only endless interpretation. So deconstruction counters the concepts that structuralism provided. For example, structuralism believed there is a final meaning, but deconstruction is against that. And we have deconstruction thinkers such as Paul de Man, J. Hillis Miller, Geoffrey Hartman, Barbara Johnson, and Jonathan Kuller. So they expanded deconstruction into literary studies. So in conclusion, structuralism seeks order, systems, and structure. And in the other hand, deconstruction breaks those systems and reveals instability. So together, they transform how we understand language, literature, and reality itself.